Live from Lincoln and broadcasting across the state of Nebraska, it's the Average Joe Sports Show. This is the place for Husker sports with the biggest names, the best interviews, and all the inside scoops.
I got a front row seat with a big tub of buttered popcorn and a greasy half-live chicken leg.
Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, weekend editions here, the Average Joe Sports Show. Hope you're doing all right. Can always find and watch weekends, 7:45-ish. We had a little trouble starting the mower today with the Average Joe Sports Show. But YouTube, where you like and subscribe, we always appreciate that. Tell a buddy who loves Husker football and Husker athletics. That's our primary focus. YouTube and, of course, Twitter as well, AJ Sports Radio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. That's Elijah Herbel. Prada Fairbury back in SEC country, still in SEC country. Bill Doleman, find both of them on Twitter at Herbal Essence, at Bill Doleman. Chris Schmidt with you at Schmidt_radio. Mark Kraynak will be with us shortly. And then we'll also run in with our dear friend Brandon Vogel from Counter Reed. And the Iron Horse, Gary Sharp, will make his customary 8:30-ish appearance. So let's get to it. A lot to get into. It's been a good week, guys, when we talk recruiting. And Nebraska, saw on social media early this morning that, hey, Nebraska's not ranked last in the Big Ten. When it comes to recruiting class rankings, they have bumped up from 18th to 17th, but it's a big picture outlook, and there is some substantial momentum for Nebraska with what they were able to do at defensive back in Odom, what they did at Rule at running back, and getting a big-time talent yesterday. The projections are nice for Nayland Scott, the wideout that Nebraska was able to flip from Arizona State. We'll get our shout-outs going in the starting five. That's how you can communicate and be a part of the show, as always, on the YouTube chat, on the stream there. But you know what? It's going to be about quality v. quantity for this 2026 class, a smaller class, guys. And we're just kind of itching for college football season. Bill, the adventures of you and SEC country. I know you take mental notes. Has anybody looked like Coach O on the beach?
Oh yeah. There are plenty of those. It's not quite like the days when we get to the bowl game down in Miami, and the only people hitting the beach were
Nebraskans.
Were Nebraska fans and the Germans, and not your German. And there were some German gentlemen who it's still emblazoned in my mind that have the Ed O look and the supreme confidence to wear a Speedo with the Ed O look. So you still see those from time to time, just not as prevalent as when you are in South Beach.
It's always, I feel like big guys, it's either big guys or like models that wear the Speedo with the most confidence. Do you guys see Jason Kelsey was wearing a Speedo at some fundraising event?
Wasn't looking that closely, no.
You know, it's something about it's big guys and then like your model smoking a cigarette. For some reason, that's the only two people that Speedos appeal to. Everyone else is normal.
Yeah, I mean, Olympic swimmers have even done away with the look. So I think we could probably do away with them altogether. But I still remember arriving in Miami on like a December 23rd or something, and it'd be a cool, crisp 55-degree day in Miami. And people from Nebraska were deplaning, heading to the hotel, and then hitting the beach at 55 and laying out like it was 95. but you'd see those who had more of an international flavor to them walking around looking like Edo and confidently wearing said Speedo. But I didn't see Ed. I looked. It wasn't for lack of trying.
Okay. Because that is, I'm thinking before you make your way back from SEC country, to take the kit with you and just sit out on a picnic table in one of the beaches in Destin, and he'll wander on by. And as long as you don't ask him about the tide, he might sit down with us.
Yeah, I think that would be a great Average Joe get.
Well, we will continue to pursue. Elijah, you are full up with umpiring duty today. A little bit after 10, I got set up here. So I have apparently Junior got home late from riding scooters with his buddies because we've got a box of cereal still out. We have a sink full of dishes, and we have cereal spilled all over the floor. So we need to get the dogs, i.e. vacuums, up here and to get to work. But Nebraska continues to work on the recruiting front. So you have one that kind of waits, one that looms in Claude Impuma. Let's start there at offensive tackle. Nebraska has been in pursuit of about 3 to 4 guys they've had on campus several times. But one of the top rated is Claude Impuma, 4-star talent out of the Mount Carmel High School, and of course, Trey Taylor's teammate. That is a target. It looks like, fellas, a race between Nebraska and Auburn for that. And you move the commitment date from tomorrow to Monday at 5 p.m. You've got a lot of the national analysts pursuing their projections and saying, look, they think it's Nebraska. How do you feel? How do you react to this date being moved? I know we're a ways away from the actual ink commitment day, but Nebraska, not only from a PR standpoint, but also from a who do you want? Nebraska's had a really good setup of being able to go, okay, here's our top guy on the board. Right now, once wins start happening for Nebraska on the football field, they may be able to land their first picks. They may have already landed some of their first picks, but the reality is right now Nebraska's got a pretty fluid board. They're trying to fill out specific spots for this class, offensive tackle being one.
Yeah, and with the importance of the offensive tackle position, Schmidt, I talked about it, I think, 2 days ago. When you get late into a recruitment, the commitment date's set, the desperation factor sets in, and it feels to me like Nebraska going into this weekend is the most desperate team with the Claude and Puma recruitment. Does that mean they're offering the most money? No, not necessarily. But I think knowing an offensive tackle optically, is good. Knowing you have a high-level quarterback in Trey Taylor who really wants Claude and Puma. You want to keep your shining quarterback commit happy, but also knowing the fact that offensive line is what it takes to win in the Big Ten. You found a guy that you really like, 6'8", huge frame. Does he need to put on some weight? Yes, absolutely. But he's got the frame and athleticism you love in a high level tackle prospect. You got to do some developing, but he's got all the tools to go be a high level, like we're talking top of the draft kind of guy. I think the desperation factor is set in for Nebraska, where the final 3 comes around, and I know Ohio State and Michigan are in there too, but this really feels like a Florida, Auburn, Nebraska race. And you might be in second a week out from the commitment. The desperation factor sets in. That's what I feel like Nebraska is right now is, you know what? Your quarterback wants a guy. You need a guy. We can be a little desperate here at the tail end of this recruitment, knowing we need a guy.
I got a guy. The thing about the need for the tackle, I think this year that compounds maybe some angst is the fact that the last couple of recruiting cycles, Nebraska's gotten down to the mix with the kid that went to Texas 2 years ago. And then then in this last recruiting cycle, was it David Smith, the guy from David Sanders went from Charlotte, went to Tennessee. So there's been back-to-back recruiting cycles with Matt Rule and his staff to try and land that coveted, prized tackle. And they finished second or third. You remember last year they had Husker fans, Dylan Rell had Husker fans showing up for Sanders and his family, and they're all decked out in red and looked all good. But all the projections were for Tennessee. The reason I think there may be some desperation is because, okay, there's another one where you've got an offensive lineman who's got Nebraska in the final mix. Can they finally pull it off and reel him in? I think that's one of the things that's most noteworthy about his recruitment. And if they miss, well, they'll try again next year, But the fact that he's from Mount Carmel and has a Chicago background and Trey Taylor's in the neighborhood, I think that probably, has a bit of an impact. with the other ones, I don't recall there being anybody on Nebraska's board or Nebraska's commitment list who could peer recruit other than Dylan Raiola because he was such a high-profile quarterback. So I think having Taylor in the fold helps out Nebraska.
That is your ace, absolutely, because of the connection, the camaraderie, and package deal, so to speak.
And Nate Turner.
Right. Well, Nate Turner, who else is a famous Mount Carmel alum?
Was Mike Murray? Was he a Mount Carmel guy?
Might have been. I know it was Donovan McNabb from Mount Carmel.
Well, he didn't end up at Nebraska.
No, I know, but he should have.
How about this? Another notable alumni of Mount Carmel. How about Billy Bean, general manager of the Oakland A's?
Huh?
Moneyball? Everyone, yeah. I know it's not a Nebraska connection, but I had to Google that one. How about that?
Yeah, that works. We'll take
that
Mount Carmel alums for
though?
1,000, Alex. So Brandon Vogel, not a Mount Carmel alum, but could have been with us from Counter Read, counterread.com. Vogues, how's the stress level this morning, partner?
So far, so good. We'll see how these next 20 or so minutes go.
Recruiting, my friend, is what we started off with. And what is your thought on Nebraska's pursuit here with Mpuma? You've got the offensive tackle kind of laid out, Nebraska's inroad to him because of Trey Taylor, and they clearly like him and have had him on campus. But Obit, you've got Cooper and Noyle. Those are the three other tackles I'm probably missing. Nebraska seemed to have had 50 offensive tackles on campus this summer, but they are zeroing in on Puma. Can they get the close at 5:00, Vogues, on Monday?
Yeah, I don't know if I have them as a pure favorite here, but they made it this far, and you've got a little bit of time left. I know it's a dead period, so things we certainly seen things change quickly when it comes to recruiting. I was looking at some of Nebraska's offer numbers under Rule, and tackle's one of those where they're consistently they put out a lot of offers, and I mean, I think it makes sense. Like it's an important position, but also when you're looking at the college level, it's a lot easier to find a guy who's playing tackle at high school and be like, oh, maybe he's a guard or a center. You have a little bit more flexibility there. It's a lot harder to take guards and centers, interior O linemen, and move them out. So I think that's probably why we've seen so many tackle offers, but it's been consistent all three classes under Rule.
Well, there's not many guys in the country that are 17 years old that stand taller than 6'6" with long arms, big torsos, like long legs, good feet. There's only so many of those to go around, and everyone in the country in today's era, I mean, with the recruiting services out there, guys like that don't get missed. Everyone in the country knows exactly where they are, what high school they go to, and how many offers they have. Like it's the reality of modern recruiting with the online recruiting services that you have. Guys like that have high level tackle prospects, they don't fly under the radar anymore.
No, they don't. And those guys, not only do they not fly under the radar, they tend to have about as good an offer list as you can hope for a player at any position. And to your point, Elijah, like it travels up too, because we see in college, like all conference tackles, become interior offensive linemen at the NFL, because at the college level, I think it's a lot about size. Like, do you have the length? At the NFL level, it becomes athleticism. And even at the top end of college too, I think that's the case. So we'll see. We'll see if Nebraska is able to land one this in days ahead.
Well, that's what I love about Mpuma in this recruitment is he's got the size 6'8". He's got crazy long arms, kind of go gadget type arms. And the feet that he has, like being a guy that started as a basketball player, I mean, the one thing that he lacks is I think he only is 260, 270 right now. So you got to put some weight on him, and you don't necessarily know how the athleticism translates when you go put 40, 50 pounds on a guy. But he's got all the intangibles right now. They just need a year or two in the weight room to get a guy like him ready.
Yeah, I think that's always the thing with college recruiting in particular. Like, You can find some really big guys out there, but you're always confident in your ability to smartly put weight on people. It's kind of the athleticism piece that I think takes precedence at this level.
Got this sent to me about Impuma and where Auburn is at, or where they're not anymore. Auburn looks like felt good about where they were at with Impuma last weekend, still had confidence as of late this week. However, last night things took a major turn as communication with the Impuma camp went sideways, so much so that Auburn pretty much is done with the situation. So shout out to our friends, the Snitley boys, for their contacts down in Bo Jackson country.
I should have driven past there on my way back from Pensacola. We just had to take the exit. I could have gotten the firsthand account myself, but I'm glad that they're on top of it. And what could have gone south in discussions between one camp and another? And I'm sure it begins with a 0.
Well, sure. Kraynak, have you Auburn recently?
No, it's been a little bit. Bill, you could just pick him up, right? Pick him up and bring him here. Be like, hey, the trunk's full of cash. I promise.
Reimbursement. All right.
Yeah.
Right. Vogues, want to get your take on Rule, the running back, real quick, as he was also a commit later on in the week. And, Nebraska has been searching for another body in that running back room, and also the nugget from Damon's show with Mosey. And Mosey maybe auditioning for touches out of the backfield. How's that grab you?
Well, I mean, Nebraska certainly, I think, for now, has the depth and the young talent at wide receiver to experiment a little bit. We saw last year they found a lot of ways to get a guy like Ja'Cory Barney the football. So this could be that. I mean, honestly, the bit about Mosey makes a little bit of sense because I've been a little bit surprised. Nebraska landed Rule, good running back with a decent offer list, but they hadn't extended a ton of offers at running back, to the point where I was a little bit surprised when you kind of look at where their room stands now. And, running back's kind of becoming one too, a position similar to quarterback in the transfer era, where if you got 2 good running backs, it's kind of hard to hang on to both of them, because the market is, if you're, maybe your leading rusher goes for $850 and you got another guy who you're really high on who goes for $500-600. It's tough to keep them both. So I kind of expected to see a little bit of an uptick in running back offers. We hadn't really. I'm guessing we won't see a ton more now because Nebraska has its guy in this class.
You think it's a move out of necessity, considering the health of the running back room? Not health like physical health, but just, Quentin Ives seems like he's probably the backup. He's very inexperienced, right? He's a bigger back. I'm not sure he's an every down guy. I'm not sure he's a out of the backfield, third down type guy. Do you think it's out of necessity as much as anything else?
Maybe not yet. It might be a little bit of a hedge of, hey, we like Mosey. We see him being a guy who we want to try and get on the field. Although there's 2 other freshman wide receivers in this class who are really good as well, and that's before you get into any of the upperclassmen. Could be crowded at wide receiver, so I think this could serve a little bit of both. Of, hey, maybe this is a way to get a true freshman on the field and get them involved because we think they can do some things, but also it gives you another option back there. It doesn't give you any more experience, certainly, in the running back room, but beyond the top 2, Ives has played a bit. You've got 2 other players who have played even less. So I think this gives them another option at least.
Good size back too, 6'1", 200.
Yeah.
Right? That's just kind of a quintessential size for a running back, as opposed to a 6'1", 200-pound receiver, which is that's okay. But could be better.
I mentioned this on the show yesterday. We talk about Nebraska's running back room, and Ives, Nelson, Williams, Booth. I mean, who else is there behind Emmett Johnson? And Parker. How many of them do we know that can be an effective pass catcher out of the backfield? Ramir Johnson was kind of that guy that if he's in there, it's kind of a tell. Okay, well, there's a possibility they might throw to this guy because they're not going to throw it to Dante Dowdell, or they shouldn't anyway. So if you put a receiver who's got that kind of size and has hands, that becomes an opportunity for him to get on the field if you do want to utilize a running back in the passing game. Not that Emmett Johnson can't be that guy, but you can't have Emmett be a 25 to 30 touches guy during in a game. I think he's your 15 to 22 with a couple of passes included in that. But if Mosey becomes a serviceable running back who can catch some passes with 4 or 5 targets, or at least 4 or 5 pass patterns, I think that's a smart move, because nobody talks about the pass catching of the other guys in the room.
And I brought this up yesterday with the pass catching. How about you get Barney, Mosey, and Emmett Johnson all in the same backfield and bring back the diamond offense, the diamond formation.
The diamond formation.
And I countered with, let's just put in the wishbone. Let's just go back. I mean, everything is cyclical. So you got a wishbone game with Nebraska, and I think Dylan Raiola throws it 25 times a season.
Okay, that would go over well with nobody.
But it would be very Switzerian.
Brendan, did you ever go inside the numbers on the diamond formation in terms of how many times it was called, what it yielded? No,
I didn't. But my memory is when Tim Beck would break that out, it felt like it had about an 85% success rate, and it was kind of why not build the whole plane out of the diamond formation? But Nebraska never quite went there.
I think formation and diamond formation are the two formations that 95% of Husker fans know. So I don't know how diamond formation snuck in there, right, as the other formation that they know, but it definitely did.
Magically, there was like 2 seasons of high school football where everyone in Nebraska suddenly had a diamond formation.
Fun memories. Did Beck go to the diamond Vogues break in case of emergency? It was that point in the game. That's what it seemed like. They got dusted off for Ohio State, and boom, they came back.
He's like, I didn't want to do this to y'all, but
yeah,
now it's time.
Yeah, I think as a pretty savvy play caller, particularly during that era, I think he tried to mix it in a little bit, but it just felt like they consistently hit big plays out of that. And, for a season there, they had Amir Abdullah, Aaron Green, and Braylon Hurd. Those are kind of your 3. Like, I don't know if they ever ended up all on the field at the same time in that formation, but that was talk about running back rooms. That was one for a season at least. But
whenever I think of moving a wide receiver to the running back room, though, Brandon, I know body type is slightly different. I do have PTSD flashbacks of Wan'Dale Robinson getting killed by Big Ten linebackers. Any concerns there with Mosey?
I think if it was a long-term thing, with Wan'Dale Robinson, like it was kind of, as a true freshman, it was like, hey, you're one of our best players. We need you. I think when it happened the second year, that kind of forced not say forced, but probably expedited the transfer to Kentucky. So yeah, I do think there's some of that. Like when you think about the mindset between being a wide receiver and a running back, they're different kind of guys. Like you can find guys that are athletic enough to do both, but can you find guys who mentally want to do both interchangeably?
Vogues, we touched on this briefly yesterday, but I wanted to get your, for lack of a better term, choose your weapon. Who do you think needs to be, who do you think will be Nebraska's best weapon on offense in 2025?
Dylan Raiola, if that counts. That's kind of the easy answer. I I think the intriguing one for me is Isaiah Hunter at this point. And you know, and there's some true freshmen, particularly at wide receiver, that I think are pretty intriguing. But if we're talking offense, and you know, Dane Key's kind of your headliner, your number one wide receiver, a guy who got a ton of targets last year, even at Kentucky. But in terms of like stretch the field, big play types, I like Hunter. Ja'Cory Barney is probably one B if I'm going with Hunter there, but you could certainly make a case for him as well. I mean, would you say about that? Would you say that about last year? Was he their primary playmaker a year ago? You can make a pretty strong argument.
Well, and to compare Hunter to like actual weaponry, kind of feels like maybe the B2 stealth bomber of this offense, and also to compare it a little bit to modern current events. But like,
Wow. You're not so subtle. You're not very subtle.
Like you maybe don't see it all that often, but when you do see it, you go, "Holy cow, is that something?"
If only he was from Missouri.
Yeah. On the next Average Joe, we will discuss what Big Ten team gets treated like Iran.
I'll take Maryland this time around.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got to go with. It's so obvious because he has the most film, but I think your best weapon. I'm going to take Dylan out of the equation because I think this guy helps Dylan clearly with the run game. But to me, I'm buying stock in Emmett Johnson, not only because he loves and he's shown the ability to, when they have won, go in and finish off a fourth quarter with some big runs, but also the bowl game and then Dana's offense with him and his ability to catch out of the backfield. So that dual threat part of Emmett's game, how tough he is between the tackles, and then the make you miss part. I mean, we saw more and more of that in the final four games. So I think he's poised to have a 1,000-yard season for Nebraska, but I think he'll do some nice work catching the football on linebackers. So to me, I think as good as the receiving core is, I think when push comes to shove, Nebraska is going to need to be beyond competent, wanting and being able to run the football. So I'm going to go with Emmett. That's my weapon. But the other receiver choices for sure aren't anything to sneeze at.
Yeah. I threw Dane Key out yesterday, and the more I think about it, the more I'm right. And one of the reasons why, another reason why is he has his coach there.
That's a good call.
I thought a year ago Jamal Banks was going to be a much bigger factor, and not that he wasn't a good player, but I thought he would be the go-to guy, 8 catches a game, flirting with 100 yards and 20 touchdowns. And that just never materialized really after the first couple of non-conference games, and he kind of disappeared at times during Big Ten play. But Key comes in as an experienced receiver in the SEC, but having Da'Keel Shorts as his coach at Kentucky is now on staff at Nebraska. That's a guy that Dana Holgorsen identified. I want him on my staff, and he's bringing his best receiver with him. I think that there's a much easier assimilation for a guy like that than for Banks to come in during the summer or whenever he got in. And I'm a one and done guy. So the opportunity for Raiola to get to develop something with Dane Key, I think is significant. I do like Hunter, but I think Key is somebody that could really be a key factor for Nebraska this season. Thank you.
Yeah. Could Dane Key be like an Apache helicopter? Like gets a lot of use, really consistent, really effective. Like, is it gonna go wow all the other countries? No, there's a lot of Apaches out there, but at the end of the day, like they don't know how to counter it still.
Some of his catches too, it looks like he's hovering. Man, he gets up there, contorting his body.
Yep. That's
rotating.
Right.
We have drifted into the military edition of the Average Joe Sports Show.
You're the one who used the term weaponry. By the way, for Emmett, I'm going M1 Abrams.
Okay. I would
Not
like
very
to have.
nifty.
I would like to have some revisionist history, and I would like to have seen Nayor and Banks play for Shorts. I think you have a different outcome last year.
I mean, I think a real point in Key's favor. He has kind of the classic trajectory that you hope for all young players, but rarely actually transpires. Where, like, pretty good, promising true freshman season, a little bit better as a sophomore, a little bit better as a junior. Now he comes with his position coach to Nebraska, which Nebraska's offense hasn't put up big numbers the past 2 seasons, but I think on paper can challenge defenses in more ways than what Kentucky typically does. So there's definitely some upside with Key.
He's now I'm wondering about Nebraska's like game breaker. Who is the guy that just leaves the defense in the dust?
That's absolutely Isaiah Hunter. That's the game breaker. Like, I'm not sure he's going to be a guy that's catching 7-8 passes a game, but the 2 to 3 a game that he does catch, you go, wow, that dude's different. Like,
he can pull away.
Yeah, and he's got size too.
I know he has that. He looks more like a running back. Like, if you're gonna do a poll and be like, okay, which receiver is going to move to running back, you might look at him, just body type wise. But okay. Now here's the other thing. Emmett himself is a breakaway dude. Like, at least now it was high school. I get it. It was high school in Minnesota. I get it. Not necessarily going against a fleet of F-16s up there, but more like F4s. I don't know, A10s. He's going against a bunch of A10s. But for real, I mean, you're talking legit 4.4, legit 4.5, but you haven't seen that from him yet on the field. You haven't seen him pull away and, make a cut and go. It's been a minute for Nebraska to have that kind of skill set in the backfield, really, or at the receiver position.
Yeah, I mean, as we're kind of talking through this, I think another way kind of to reverse engineer it, to view it, is who on this offense is your best bet to be all Big Ten? Second team, first team, whatever. And take Raiola out, because I think he's the favorite. But when you look at the skill positions, and we'll include tight end there, and like, there's not a lot of sure bets out there. Like, I mean, we could talk about, like, we probably know as much about Emmett Johnson as anyone, and his sample size is like decent, but not huge. Like, if he has the best season of his career, is he an all Big Ten type back?
I think he could. I mean, it's got to be a monster season, total yards from scrimmage. I mean, he's got to work on Roger Craig numbers, like 2,000 total, 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving, just because your favorites going in are going to be the kids out of Penn State. Minnesota's returning running back. Those are your kind of leaders in the clubhouse preseason award-wise. Whoever the hell Ohio State's going to hand off to. Roz, you can hear, is big on EJ being all Big Ten. So I think he could sneak in, and it's not an ability thing. It's just, I think there's a lot of good backs in the league. You're 18 deep,
To me, I go Dane Key, which I struggle with because Ohio State has so many talented wide receivers that you go, well, there's your first team wide receivers right there. Just take Ohio State's top 2. There's first team all Big Ten. But when I look at Dane Key, might not be flashy, but the guy I compare him to, and I have a little bit of Broncos bias here because the Broncos drafted him, and apparently he's played really well this summer. But I digress. Pat Bryant from Illinois. Never quite wowed the greater Big Ten, but man, was he consistent game in, game out. 10 touchdowns, 54 catches, just a shade under 1,000 yards, and 3 game-winning touchdowns in the final 2 minutes or overtime. Like, just a guy for Illinois that consistently got open. Did he ever wow you with his speed, with his catch radius? No, but his hands were solid. He was consistent. And he just had a way, veteran, of getting open.
First team all Big Ten guy last year too. Which I mean, and I think Nebraska's kind of best options for all Big Ten contention probably is a wide receiver. the issue you run into there is there's so much
Ohio
talent in the Big
State.
Ten. USC,
the issue
both of
there is,
USC's
yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
What's
Oh God.
let me ask this question. Is it more important for Nebraska to get a skill position player to all Big Ten or an offensive lineman such as Elijah Pritchett?
Probably O-line. It's been a while.
Spencer Long.
Oh wait.
It's all,
I've been waiting to use that for so long.
Never again.
Keep that ready. Keep that ready. Keep that. By the way, you see the little difference in editorial opinion right there at the exact same time. Chris is like, never again. And I'm like, keep it ready.
I like the production value on the show. It's really increased over the last few months.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
For Elijah to line up the tape to just that moment and hit play.
We do have a tape deck in there.
We do.
You do.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
perfect.
It's right behind this computer screen that I'm looking at right now.
Uh-huh.
You should do an entire show with Appetite for Destruction, just playing like low in the background. Be careful on It's So Easy. Be
Yeah.
careful on that song.
We'll save that for the pregame show before Nebraska Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Why not? By the way, in the stream, a lot of love here. A lot of love for EJ.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of love for him. But Harburg got some run here in the stream for a little bit in the comments. He's probably what would you say? The F-14, because once he sweeps those wings back, right? And can really turn on the afterburners. And I'm being half serious here.
To me,
Like when we talk about breakaway.
No, I like that. To me, I go like the Humvee, like super utilitarian, does it all, like kind of brings the whole team along with him, you know?
Has arm like barbed wire tattoos around his arm.
Well, and Will, to kind of put a bow on this military theme segment with Brandon Vogel, will Coach Eckler's
That's Captain Vogel to you.
Captain Vogel will Eckler's crew resemble the Navy SEAL elite task force?
Ooh.
By the way, we're still waiting for that video. When does that video happen? The slow-mo video of the Husker team being trained by a Navy SEAL at Branched Oak or something like that, right? 5:30 in the morning, so they all learn leadership.
Well, that is a good idea. You don't want to go Holmes Lake. Stay out of that water.
Yeah.
Branch Oak is a better choice.
The thing in hindsight, I think one of the most dramatic videos like that, I think, was leading into 2021. And I'm not blaming the Navy SEAL. I don't think it's his fault that Nebraska went 3-9, right? But I'm just saying.
It'd be really funny if you did blame the Navy SEAL.
Like everything was going great. We just couldn't get over the hump.
I think he helped Nebraska look good off the bus. Without that early morning training, then because remember Nebraska was the all bus team, and the results were not so good. But without that early morning Navy SEAL training, then you don't even have the good bus look. So I think that was, the ROI was pretty good in that regard.
The mission was compromised. Okay. you had some generals calling bad plays.
Yeah.
If Eckler has special teams at SEAL team level this year, he deserves more money. Like, given where Nebraska's been recently, like I think you would take just a group of buds trainees, like the guys who want to be SEALs. Like if Nebraska just get to that level, then that puts them about a little bit above average nationally. We'll worry about like top 10 for 2026.
Nebraska's special team has played like real SEAls over the last few decades or years anyway. So
you mean like like those guys? Like
yeah.
Flopping around on the ground.
Throw the ball.
Throw the ball.
No, they wish they could bounce a ball on their nose like a seal.
Picked off by orcas. Like,
yeah, right.
Wow.
That is code for Illinois punters. Yeah. Vogues, what is coming up? Vogues is having a run. Okay. Hey, sweetie. It's little Frankie.
Hello.
Frankie, what do you think of Nebraska special teams?
What do you think?
Weird guy with the eyebrows.
Her back. She something happened to her back, so I've got to go check on that, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. Good luck,
Real,
Dr. Vogel.
real quick pitch
Alright.
before the doctor's office about Connor Reed.
Hopefully not the doctor's office. Yeah, ConnorReed.com, twice weekly Substack newsletter from myself and Aaron Sorensen. You can check 2 out for free. And if you want more, there are 2 subscriber exclusives each week. Working on the Unknowables series here in June, July. Some of these questions that are tough to prove about Nebraska, but worth exploring. So more of that coming up.
And how much do your cute kids get to eat if people don't subscribe?
None. We haven't yet. We need to pick up a new subscriber right now. So
you know what to do. You know what to do. Save the children.
Thanks, Brandon.
Folks,
All right.
appreciate
Thank you.
buddy. There he is, Brandon Vogel. I like the child placement. Well,
Do we think he trained his kids right at 8? Like, get in the room here, get on my lap. I need to get out.
You guys notice he doesn't do that during the most important season, only when it's the dead sports time.
Schmitty's also trained his dogs. Schmitty wants to get out too. His dogs come join the stream whenever Schmitty's trying to get out.
Schmitty's like, what do you guys think about the U.S. Open moving up mixed doubles by a week ahead of the rest of the tournament? Go.
Sharpie, how we doing, man?
Good. Phil Steele magazine is out in your favorite Barnes & Noble, if you didn't know. So I guess, like you have, once the College World Series ends, you have the countdown clock to like when college football officially begins. Is it when Phil Steele arrives? Or let me throw in a plug for a guy that that has been really good to my show, Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews.
Yep.
When those arrive or when the media days start. Like, when does it officially begin for you? Because we have this like 2-week window where it's just the dread of sports calendar.
I think it's media days.
Yeah, it is. And that's when
down in Texas Network, it's the Dave Campbell preview.
Yes.
Yeah, the Dave Campbell preview in Texas, which is its own country. That's when football season begins, much like the Phil Steele and the Brett Cianci. But I'm with Smitty. When you start thinking media days, that's it.
Well, media days is when I can no longer take a vacation anymore up until like the end of the season, so that's when it starts for me. Whenever there's still people taking vacation, it hasn't started just yet.
Yeah, because that's when the Big Ten Network is going to do. They didn't do the bus tour last year, did they? Did they call it the bus tour?
Yeah, well,
they really can't. It's more like the Learjet tour.
No, I think they did. They did, but they didn't take they had their West Coast people. Like Yogi Roth that are based out there did the 4 West Coast teams.
Okay, that makes sense.
But also remember, like the new schools weren't officially in until like the first part of August, right?
It was later. Yeah.
How about this for an idea? Average Joe bus tour to LA for the UCLA game.
That's miserable.
How about RV?
That's a long. Look at that. How long that trip is, Elijah.
We'll stop.
We kill each other.
We'll stop in Vegas.
I think we'd bond, Gary. I think we'd bond, probably.
Gary's got a list. Who would I hit first?
I don't know if you realize how long of a drive that is.
30 kind of like rows on the bus.
It's about 22 hours. But yes, you do go through Vegas.
Yeah. I got a roommate who his dad lives in San Fran. And he makes that trip once a year there and back.
Huh.
They do it all in one go with a whole bunch of energy drinks.
Look, the thing about those things, it's exciting to plan. It's fun to think about. It's the anticipation for it, and then you get there, and then you go to why you went, and then it's the return trip.
Yeah,
that's the buzzkill.
Yeah, if Nebraska were to drop that game, that would be a brutal trip back.
Well, that's why you bring the tape deck. Bring that tape deck. We're good, man. We just need about
22-hour repeating.
Yeah, we just.
I think we should go on I think we should bring back the old like Big 8 Skyriders tour.
Yes,
and we should just drive around to every small college football stadium in Nebraska, like from Wayne to Crete to Kearney to Shadron,
Blair for Dana.
We could We could remember the days. Who knows what that? I think that campus has been like 4 different things since the school shut down.
Yeah,
Probably a DR Horton neighborhood.
Hey, we could go to the stadium at Peru, which is a beautiful setting.
yeah, the Oak Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Schmidt is not on board, but that's okay.
No. I mean, I've not been.
Skip Germany. Come to the bus tour.
Is it still the Tom Osborne field out at Hastings?
Better be.
Yeah, if they decided to like overwrite that a little, what are they going to name it after the Kool-Aid Man or something?
Well, you know, when you drive from Grand Island to Hastings, there's no passing.
Oh, no. That was the joke on the Tom Osborne Expressway, wasn't it?
Hey, I fell for it. I went out there and did a high school game, and the person that was sitting next to me told me that, and I thought it was real, like as a tribute. Like, man, no speeding, no passing.
Did you know
yellow line?
Did you know down at Ole Miss, the speed limit on campus everywhere is legitimately 18 miles an hour in honor of the Manning family?
Come on.
Oh,
Despite the fact
wild.
that Peyton went to Tennessee.
wow.
What did Eli wore? What, 10 at Mississippi?
Yeah.
So
When
I think
Nebraska in the Independence Bowl.
I think around the stadium itself it's 10, but it's 18 everywhere else on campus.
Ooh,
That's
yeah.
funny.
How about that?
So what it should be on campus then would be 15, right?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
it's
so.
50. Maybe I'm misremembering the number. It's something like
Maybe it should be like just on the peripheral of the campus 30 for Rozier, then on the inner part 20, and then around the campus 7 for the Heisman Trophy winners.
that.
Somewhere we got to work in 93, don't we?
Chris wants to open up the Buick, man.
Maybe that should be once you get west of the arch,
Jeez.
then it's 93 to the border.
As in tribute to Sue.
No,
Yes.
93 on 17th Street, heading to campus.
No, I'm telling you, it's 93 from the airport down Cornhusker Highway to the stadium, because that's what Devaney did the day that I picked him up, because he had a meeting with Walt Byers prior to the 1986 season opener. When Nebraska was going to have its like 40 players suspended because of ticket infractions. So I went to go pick up Coach Devaney at the airport, and I said he had a meeting with Byers at 3:00 in his office. I didn't stock the office for that particular meeting, but I get to the airport and he's coming down the escalator. I said, Coach Devaney, it's 3:15 and you had a meeting with Mr. Byers at 3:00, so we need to go as soon as we can. He goes, I believe you better let me drive this time. So we get on Cornhusker Highway. Cornhusker Highway, and I let him drive, and I'm not sure I was supposed to, but I let him drive, and we are just freaking flying past the Royal Grove. And I'm like, if my friends could see me now, but I'm guessing we were going about 93 to get there, and sure enough, they all played.
The Bob father.
What Bob drive? Was it a caddy?
Yes.
Oh God, yeah.
Of
Then
course,
he had somebody drive it for him. Then he had a driver as he got a little bit older, and nobody wanted him driving. Yeah. He would pull up to Buck Belcher Field, and not just pull up on the road, the road that curved.
Yeah.
He would pull up like he would try and pull into the stadium.
Left field.
Like behind home plate. Yeah. And then he would shuffle his way to the gate. And when the game was going on and maybe a pitch was in progress, the gate would open and Devaney would shuffle out of the gate. John Sanders would have to call time, go and get him and escort Coach to the dugout. And then he'd spend the rest of the game dog cussing the home plate umpire.
Sounds like a high school sporting event in Nebraska.
That sounds awesome.
I only by the time I got to Nebraska, Bob was Coach was at the end. Like one time I had to help him find his way because he was lost. So I never got to be part of the full Bob father experience, like Tam O'Shanter and all of that kind of stuff. But I hope those stories of Devaney and us recognizing Devaney don't end. Like, I think the statue at Memorial Stadium gets ignored a little bit, even though it's a great statue of Devaney. I mean, now, are people still going to call it the Devaney Center? I mean, to me, it'll always be the Devaney Center, but now it's the John Cook Arena, Mark Manning, Pavilion, whatever now it's called. Terry Pettit floor.
Quickly here, we can get back to this. I just want to confirm it is 18 miles an hour on Ole Miss's campus. There's
Look at that.
For Archie.
Yes.
For Archie. Bill, what's the most ticked off you saw Devaney get?
Oh boy, I'd have to go back in the Rolodex for that one.
When she said no,
the whiskey helped him. Whiskey helped him cope, though. So I don't think he got mad a lot, right?
Yeah, I don't.
He starts to get mad. He drinks a little more, and he's a little happier. He's a happy drunk guy.
I'll tell you, he wasn't agitated about the whole ticket thing. I think he knew that he was going to get that deal done. It was just a matter of getting to the meeting, because myself or Ben Boyle had probably stocked the shelves, so the meeting was going to go fine. I don't remember him being too agitated about much.
Back in the day, think about it.
When football coaches were an athletic director.
Yeah, you'd have a smoke-filled back room. You'd make a deal, and voila, you'd end up in the Sugar Bowl. I mean,
and then to imagine that straight edge Tom Osborne was just like his favorite, right? Like not drinking a drop, not doing anything, right? Like he's the only one that's kind of keeping things, sane around there. That is classic.
It should not be lost on how great of an athletic director and how much of a pioneer he actually was. And some of it was because, well, I guess there's this court case that said we got to do something, so we might as well go do it, make sure we do it right. But without Devaney, the Nebraska volleyball program is just a pencil push that they say we got to do this. But I mean, he brought in Pettit, he invested in it, and he let Barb Hibner, kind of run the women's athletic program. He is actually one of the most significant. He'll never get credit for it, other than right here. One of the most significant athletic directors to pioneer women's athletics in the collegiate games, because Nebraska had Title IX comes down. So if we're going to play volleyball, we're going to play it well. And he invested in Pettit, and he allowed Pettit to do what Pettit wanted to do to build the program. He brought in quality women's basketball coaches. He supported Gary Pepin in track and field, and they won multiple national championships and had Olympians. And, he allowed the swim program with Cal Bench and Ray Huppert way back in the day. And so what Devaney did to help pioneer women's athletics should never, ever be lost, because without him saying, we got to do this, so we're going to do it right, Nebraska volleyball isn't what it is even today.
And we talked earlier this week, we made our listing of the Mount Rushmore of college football coaches. Could you make an argument for Devaney based on what he did as athletic director, or do you make a separate Mount Rushmore of athletic directors that you could put Bob Devaney on?
I would.
Oh, Gary's muted.
We're on mute, Gary. We're on mute.
You're making a great point too. I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah.
Where Nebraska was before he got hired, I mean, to where he handed it off and it continued to. He's on everybody's Mount Rushmore Nebraska coaches. My thing with Devaney is I hope he doesn't get forgotten.
Yes.
But it seems like as we get a little bit further away, and Bob hasn't been the head coach for a long time. He hasn't been with us for a long time, that people don't really talk about Devaney. They know him as a basketball arena. I don't know. I'm just standing up for what I think is a great statue in front of the stadium.
Yeah. I mean, there could be a tradition, pour a little Irish whiskey on it,
They
at the foot of it.
They should. And Tam O'Shanter is not even Tam O'Shanter anymore?
No, I was there 2 weeks ago.
But it's not, they dropped, is it just the Tam?
Just the Tam.
Yeah, well, the carpet on the wall's gone. It's been facelifted.
That takes away the charm.
Hey, yes. Going back to our theme that we had last week, look what happens when you change things, like the watering hole downtown. You know what? Oh. I dropped a chicken wing bone beneath the booth like 9 years ago. When I come back to visit, I want it to still be there. I don't want it to be cleaned up.
Yeah,
and now it doesn't even exist.
Yeah. Remember
that was Schmidt's favorite place.
It's facelift. I mean, you go in there, you had the red and white checkered tablecloths, and you go to the can in the back, and there's stuff all over the pool table.
Yeah.
Paul Phillips is still playing.
Yeah. I mean, I know. Nostalgia, right? Yesteryear.
Yeah.
Remember when
now
that
it's
Frazier
Raising
guy?
Cane's.
Hey, you remember when that Frazier guy against Florida? They tried to tackle him with 14 guys on the field, and he got away, and Jim Nantz lost his mind.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we're not doing
How many-
nostalgia? Okay.
How many
No,
tackles can one man break?
break? I know.
Yeah.
Realistically,
Sharpie, I want to get into a
Technically,
little current times and thoughts on the week that's been recruiting wise for Nebraska.
It's been good, and it could get even better. I mean, I think that's why I don't know if I said it with you guys or somewhere else. You know, like recruiting, doesn't it seem like every year when you follow Nebraska recruiting, it goes through this? Like they'll go through a period of a drought while everybody around you is plucking a 4-star or once gets a 5-star, and you're like, well, what's wrong with Nebraska? And then all of a sudden, Nebraska starts to catch up. And once you turn the faucet on, that drip turns into a nice little flow. And it kind of feels like that. As I look at yesterday, and Larry Miles is probably on the way, and then Puma, which pushing back to Monday is kind of interesting because I think it's a whole NIL thing between Auburn and Nebraska. And you know that Auburn will go crazy with their cash. And does he make the smart decision and stick with a place that I think he would be better at? Nebraska is it sets up, if by chance you can turn the corner in 25, what you're going to add to your roster for 26, 27 and beyond. So I think it's been a really, really good week. It shows you the power of getting someone on campus. You know, maybe Nebraska with their recruiting staff, and I think their best recruiter is Rule, when they go out on the road, they're not necessarily the best closers, but when you get them on campus, they have the MVP, and that is that place, you know, to close with the coach and the spiel and make it memorable. And so I think it's been a great week. I think they're going to have some misses along the way coming up. I don't think Jones from Omaha North will go to Nebraska. I think Iowa was too early there, and Nebraska made up some ground, but that's still kind of a coin flip. But I think it's been they're no longer last in the Big Ten. That's a good thing.
Were they last because just the so few numbers, or were they critically looking at the 6 they have, which is now up to 9? The 6 that they have are not very good either. But it's just a numbers game.
No, I think it's you're right, Bill. I think it's they look at numbers more than anything.
Yeah,
I mean there's also some quality in there, but low numbers. You're not going to have a 8-man class and be number 1 in the country,
right?
But do you guys think this? So this is something I was, as you're sitting there going, okay, it's been a long time since C.J. Brownell and Black Friday committed. Is anybody ever going to commit to Nebraska? Do you think? And I think sometimes Nebraska recruiting is stuck between wanting to recruit in the neighborhood of Ohio State, Oregon, but also still wanting to recruit the development guy that like under the radar. Let's bring him on campus. Let's get him in the program. Let's develop him. That they have gone after more higher end prospects who tend to stretch the process out before making a decision. So that's kind of how we've had to wait a little bit longer.
They are in the mix for a lot of high-end talent. You look at some of the recruiting races they're a part of. I mean, it's with some Bamas, it's with the Oregons, with the Michigans, with the Ohio States, with the Clemsons, case by case, clearly. And then you've got Rule, that commitment win at running back. It wasn't your top 10 class, but it's some respected coaches, right, that were able to identify Rule at running back. And I'll take Nebraska beating out Michigan State for a running back. I know Michigan State's not playoff potential as we look at them, but I respect their coaching staff. The other side of it, you look at what Nebraska did to get the defensive back this week. I mean, it was Ohio State and Clemson that Nebraska beat out. So you need to be able to do both. You need to be able to go compete and win for that 4-star that everybody recognizes, but also see the guy that, okay, we're about one of 3 or 4 schools that got in early on a kid, and his list isn't as impressive as others from a name value standpoint, but we really like him and we think he'll fit. So do both well is my long-winded answer.
Hey, good on college football to do what the NFL cannot do. The NFL is, the Super Bowl, and then it all leads up to the draft. And then after the draft, it's kind of like your little favorite team's training camp. College football is carrying this recruiting thing all the way through the summer. You got your 7-on-7 stuff. You got these guys who are setting their dates, and people are still talking about it. You got your recruiting services. We're talking about, when does college football begin? Is it media days? This whole recruiting thing is taking college football deeper into the off season than the NFL does. The NFL, it's like the draft and Shedeur Sanders, but college football is all recruiting all the way up until kickoff on week 0.
Well, yeah, and then you're hosting commits on big home game weekends at the same time too.
Yeah.
It is still concerning though, and we were talking about this last week where it was like, Nebraska's little, and then you get a couple commits during the past week, and it kind of feel a little better. But at least according to On3 right now, Nebraska's still 18th in the Big Ten.
17th. They moved up.
What I just saw. No, I think maybe it's changed in the last.
We have discrepancies then, right?
Okay.
From 18 to 17.
Maryland looks like they're a shade ahead right now. Yeah.
We just better settle it on the field.
Damn them.
It's a seller battle here.
It's a fluid deal. It's like Bitcoin. It's up and it's down. It's 24/7.
But bottom line is Nebraska has 9 commits, 1 4-star.
You just got to be right, because if say you get with him and Puma maybe be in there, that's where the wind seems to be moved. We'll see. If you can hit on, say, 6 of 9 guys, is that any different than Maryland hitting on 6 of 16? No, it's not. It's just, you got to be right. And that is the hard part in recruiting, is that it's an inexact science. But that's why, like, the recruiting rankings, with a smaller class, you're always going to be near the bottom, because with how recruiting rankings work, the more guys you have, the higher you're going to go in the recruiting rankings. So I'm not like, the recruiting rankings aren't the be all end all in a special year like Nebraska is going to have this year, where the recruiting class isn't probably going to go much above 14.
Well, and there's another part of this whole conversation that is still wild. If you look at Nebraska's roster, there's not a lot of room. I mean, Nebraska, I think, and this just seems to be a trend, Nebraska is going to be one of the younger teams in college football again this year.
Yep.
Like they are. So in the man cave, I have the 5-year chart of everybody's class. And on the left side is freshmen, redshirt freshmen, sophomores. And then the other side is the upperclassmen. That side with the young players, the underclassmen, is really top heavy. And it just seems like that's been a trend of Nebraska's been one of the younger teams. But I think, man, I think they're 80 plus are on the younger side. So they don't have a lot of room. It just shows you like 27, 28, and even 26. They can't have a lot of misses, because you're going to have some attrition as you go along. And then that 105 will finally creep up, and it'll be the ceiling where there's no more grandfathering. But it just, I think Nebraska is going to be still a relatively young football team, but a young football team that has guys that have experience, though, that played either as true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and now they're sophomores.
And does Nebraska's willingness to take a smaller class indicate that they do feel good about the younger guys they have on campus right now? Because realistically, if you didn't, you could still go big recruiting class here and then make some cuts in a year or two. Does that clue you into the fact that Nebraska likes the freshmen and redshirt freshmen that they currently have on campus?
I think so. I mean, I think that's a great observation, Elijah. And I also think they believe that with their setup and what they're going to do this year, that if they need to go and supplement in the portal, they'll be able to kind of have their pick of who they want if they have a good season.
They'll be really attractive for sure in the portal if they do what they think they're going to do.
So July 1st is when rev share hits.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to be honest, I'm trying to figure out what Nebraska's strategy is going to be in terms of how you spend your money and win in the recruiting process compared to others, and how that'll all play out. Like, what is a more, like, for instance, USC, from what I understand, is front loading it all, where they're paying guys who are in high school now, like just paying them now. And lo and behold, guess what? A lot of kids are committing to USC, and they're the number one class, right? They're the number one class in the Big Ten. and they are just loading up. It's a ridiculous haul that they've gotten so far. Do we know what Nebraska's, like, how they are going to divvy up the money? Or is that going to be an experimental thing that you're going to see schools throughout the country try to figure out? Because you're going to have how much to spend? $20.5 million total or something like that for your entire athletic department. And then you can devote a certain amount of that to football. And that's not necessarily legislated. So that's on a school by school basis about how you want to divvy that up. Right. So that becomes a thing here in 3 days. Do we know how Nebraska is going to divvy up that money, use that money, supplement that money, and what that means for player acquisition?
I would think that Monday you will get a release from Nebraska, and it will explain, opting in, what it means to everybody, and what sports they're going to fund. Because they're going to add some scholarships, but that might not mean, hey, we're adding a scholarship in this sport or adding a couple, but that doesn't mean they're part of the revenue sharing. I think football has to be 75%. I think men's basketball, there's been some chatter that they're expecting $3 to $3.5 million, which is not much. And then you got women's basketball, and then volleyball. And do you fund a fifth sport? Is wrestling ahead of baseball? Now, this is fluid and it changes year to year, but I would think Monday you get something from Nebraska, because there's a lot of the athletic directors in the Big Ten that I noticed this past week, either in front of their equivalent of the Board of Regents or publicly mentioned how they're dividing up the money in what sports. Like, for example, Illinois has volleyball in their top 4 that they're going to fund. Minnesota has men's hockey. They have men's and women's basketball, volleyball, hockey, and football. So I think probably Monday. But I'm curious to see, like, we all want to know what that fifth sport is. And if it's not, let's say baseball, for example, does baseball go out and does baseball have some private people that fund the program essentially?
Because is that also the same time, July 1st, when the scholarship numbers go up? Those go hand in hand, correct?
Yep.
Right. So in baseball right now, everybody's 11.7 scholarships or something like that.
They're adding 3, so it's going to be about 14.7 for baseball.
That's what Nebraska's going to do, or that's what the. But you can do up to 35 or something, right? Is that
34?
34. Yeah.
But there's going to be
eventually they want to get to 25. Is that what you're hearing too?
Yeah. So at the College World Series, this was a big discussion because the SEC, of course, in baseball, how many schools are actually going to go to 34? And most of the people I talked to said not many. They've been told, hey, you should go to 34, but most of them will be in the range of 25 to 30. Because from what I understand, those extra scholarships do come out of the revenue sharing. So that you also have to factor that in.
That lowers your kitty.
Yeah.
Lowers your.
So if let's just say, here's my trade-off. We don't give you revenue sharing, but we add to your scholarships. If that's how you look at it. So, like, for example, Oklahoma State and Nebraska may have the same amount of scholarships next year. It's just, if you're an athletic director, you got to make some tough decisions because you can't allow your football programs on campus to slip. And most are going to fund it at 70 to 75%.
I think the decision Nebraska has to make in terms of, because North Carolina famously has the 4. They were the first out of the gate to say it's football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball. So you've got fall, you've got winter, and then you've got a spring sport. And if you were to compare, you're going to probably have 2 of the women's sports with women's basketball and volleyball. You're not going to shortchange them because you don't want to get into Title IX trouble. But to me, the dilemma is probably baseball and wrestling. And if you were to look at it in terms of fan interest, perhaps, wrestling and overall success, overall success goes to Mark Manning in wrestling, not just finishing second this past season, but perennially in the top 10.
They could add to this. Yeah.
Yeah. And now if you look at what the attendances have been like at some of those big matches at the Devaney Pettit Cook Pavilion Arena Center. You know, they're getting 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 or more, and talking about having the Iowa duel at PBA next year, or Penn State, whichever one they have at home. I think it's Iowa. Right. So you're getting attendance figures that surpass baseball. Now baseball has more home dates, but the interest and the attendance and everything with wrestling is on the upswing. So do you fund another winter sport and let your spring die on the vine? That to me is an interesting dilemma. And then there's softball.
What's your conference positioned to serve? In conference wise, it's volleyball and wrestling for the Big Ten.
Yeah, they ain't sure. Like I just look at like Washington. Baseball is not one of their sports. Minnesota, baseball may be, because we all like baseball, and we all see the return on investment if you are playing at home in June a couple of weekends. But if your conference is not going to do it, I don't know. Maybe you search for, maybe if you search for the Charlie Colognes and the Butenbachs of the world that support the program. I think that's kind of maybe what you're looking for is somebody privately to kind of fund your program, kind of like Penn State hockey. The Pagulas, who own the Sabres, they fund the Penn State hockey program.
So okay, to go back to football, I'm a high 3-star, low 4-star receiver.
That's
the types
cool.
of offers. Yeah, I just thought I'd let you guys know. Been training a lot. The variance in offers that I'm getting has to be just absurd, right? Like on from USC, I might get, hey, we'll give you $100,000 right now just for committing, right? And then once you get here, you'll get more base. And then for Nebraska, it's like, well, we're going to let you earn your keep. We got a spot for you, and then you'll get you'll get 15,000. Like, how is that all working? Is it literally like we're all just sitting here? We've been studying this for a while. We don't know, do we? We don't know how Nebraska is dividing it up, and we know it's not very regulated. How the hell do you stay at the front of the pack when there just aren't rules? The decisions that Dannon has to make right now could have serious ripple effects.
That's why they've been pretty cautious with their movement forward. I mean, when we're back to this recruiting number, Rule said it from the get-go. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver because of what the future holds. I mean, you got to go on eggshells with this moving forward. Now, you got to be plugged in, and that's what's important about having your athletic director on a bunch of committees. What's the buzz around the world of athletics and academics? And if you're in those meetings or in those settings, you're going to know probably before some other folks.
Hey, the one thing I like about this, and I know, everybody's going to be talking about, hey, this is how much we spend, and we got the third party, keep it away from public NIL. At the end of the day, I think on the field, we're going to get back to the best programs don't have a ton of misses in recruiting and evaluation. They are really, really good developers. Your staff is as good as it's ever been because you got to get the best coaches on Monday through Friday, and more importantly on Saturday. Then I think the other thing is, and this is where I think Nebraska is in a good spot, while they get this thing rolling, is the people that take care of your athletes and keep them on the field will be more important than they've ever been. Because with a smaller roster, you can't afford to have a roster decimated by injuries where, because maybe not everybody's going to be at 105. They're still going to operate in the world of 84 to 87 scholarships. If all of a sudden you have a bunch of guys go down. So I think the off the field from nutrition and strength and conditioning and rehab and all of that stuff, I think also will take on more importance. So we're actually, even though there's money out there and we're rightfully so paying the players, I think it'll get back to the nuts and bolts of your operation as a football program. If you can coach it, if you can coach them up, if you can get them, if you can coach them up, if you can coach on Saturday and you can keep them on the field, then I think those programs will continue to prosper. And you can't, and this is where Nebraska's got to be better. you can't afford to have multiple misses in recruiting classes.
Yeah.
Nope. You have the resources to go get in front of said talent, get them better, and go win with them. Simple. Sounds simple. Sounds real simple. Elijah,
Well, I mean,
know
isn't
you
that
got
like, that's like what football is supposed to be, but it changed where, the playing field leveled and you could pay players. And so those programs that kind of went that model, they're still there, but they are not as sexy as the other ones that pay a lot of money. Georgia, I think, is a great development program. They get dudes, but they develop them.
Yeah. Well,
and they also kind of can pay.
Yeah, they can pay, and that three-pronged reality is why they've cranked out a couple of national championships. I mean, but now you have a shot to do it as well. Sunday Live on the doorstep, 10:30 with the Average Joe Sports Show, weekend edition winding down. Elijah, go make hay today. Don't toss anybody.
Oh, bottom of the first inning. It's enticing today. I don't know.
Wow. Going in with an agenda. Okay. Kraynak, appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, I'm just asking Gemini. That's like ChatGPT,
We're familiar.
What is Nebraska's best chance to thrive when revenue sharing hits? Number one, it says strategic allocation of revenue sharing funds, prioritizing football and men's basketball. So we have that. I'll keep studying it, see what the AI thinks Nebraska should do.
I think I will say, Gary mentioned this. I think Nebraska wrestling has a chance, and it's incredible how Mark Manning with age just keeps on getting better and better. That program's got a chance to really take off if they can get some money from the revenue sharing side of things.
I think they've got a lot of folks out west too that are willing to help fund wrestling. They've got some folks that understand and recognize how good he is and what his kids do. And I think there's a war chest for him.
I think they're neck and neck with Iowa. Next stop, Penn State.
Yeah, no, I think the 25-26 season, this upcoming year, I think the conversation about Mark Manning winning a national championship is about to get real.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
And beyond that, I think their succession plan. I hope Mark coaches for 10 more years, but I think they have a succession plan in place for when he does decide to step aside, because he has a really good staff and they've got a lot of continuity there. And that if and when, and again, I hope it's a decade from now, because we all love him. But
we talked to him a couple months ago.
Snyder and guys like that are really good.
We talked to him a couple months ago. That guy has still got a lot left in the tank.
Totally. 100%.
He is just espresso. That is what he is.
I love
it. but they now have roots in their staff and their program. I mean, I don't think that they do things on a whim. Not that they ever thought they did, but is a deep program has things going in the right direction.
Brian Snyder is a dude.
Yep.
He's a key right-hand man to Mark Manning.
Yep.
Pretty smart guy. By the way, he was in my consumer math class back in the day when he was a wrestler. I had to take consumer math. I didn't find out until I was like a senior. I didn't think I had to take any math because that's what my dean told me. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh no, yeah, you got to take math." I'm like,
"What is consumer math?"
Exactly.
Here's how you balance a checkbook.
I learned the Euler circuit. I learned that, which is basically like if you're a delivery driver and there's one-way streets all over the place, like here is how you make the most optimal route. It was really ridiculous. Brian Snyder was in that class. Yeah.
In my time, they added a math class specifically for journalism students. When I tell you that was the easiest math class I ever took.
Called yards per carry.
Exactly. Exactly.
Here's how to figure out an ERA.
It's called yards per carry and free throw percentage.
Legitimately, it's like today we're gonna find out how you determine an average, and I'm like, "Are you kidding? College? This is a college math course."
That is perfect.
I got stuck with algebra and got to take the same course 3 times, but we're not gonna cry. It's Saturday.
Gary and then Shaw, you entered the draft after 3 years of doing
Mark Kraynak, that is Bill Doleman. Elijah Herbel is set to go call balls and strikes. Chris Schmidt, like and subscribe. Tell your friends. The Average Joe Sports Show on YouTube, on Twitter, AJ Sports Radio. Back tomorrow with Sunday Live at 10:30. Appreciate all of you in the stream. Appreciate you guys for popping on. We'll talk to you next time.